So thank you and welcome everyone to Sanity Drive podcast. This is a platform where we try to make an intersection between neuroscience research and human experience, making some of those tips available for our daily living towards a better brain health. My name is Nosarieme Abey and I'm hosting this special episode of the podcast looking at April, which marks both an Autism Awareness Month and also Stress Awareness Month. These are very important topics and brain health, and this is giving us a very unique opportunity to be able to examine how diverse neurological experiences could even shape our understanding of human condition, no matter the spectrum. And so today I'm joined by Dana Dzamic to discuss this very important topic, the spectrum of human divergence. And this will be taking us just beyond the normal or the traditional looks that we know about human divergence. We'll be looking into a deeper understanding of how neurodiversity, particularly autism, could affect or have different neurotype and experience, and how we can also manage stress. Again, I'm thrilled to have Dana join me on the call, and she's a neurodiversity advocate and also a researcher, and I would just allow Dana to introduce herself.
Thank you. I'm really delighted to be here, and I'm really looking forward to be part of this very important topic, which is very close to me personally as well. So yes, I'm a neurodiversity consultant. I spent over a decade working with people and children on the autistic spectrum and other neurodivergent conditions. I worked in different settings, in schools and with people one-to-one, and I was consulting families, and I did inclusive research as well. So it's a mixture of different approaches in understanding and working with or within the neurodiversity field.
Thank you so much, Dana. Thank you again for making our time out of your very busy schedule to
discuss
this important topic. So let's start this way. Looking at the spectrum of human divergence, looking at this topic, it looks more like a sandwich of English words, but I know that you will be able to help unfold this concept and take us beyond the traditional classification of neurological differences, and so take the floor.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have to say I really do like the term, the spectrum of human divergence. And the reason I like it, because that sort of terminology and the language we use, it's really about acknowledging that the human brains are wired differently. And it's not about a problem to be fixed, but a reality to be embraced. So that's actually moving away from a historically previous understanding of neurodivergent conditions that had a lot of negativity and stigma, and the intervention approach and any sort of supporting approach was more focused on fixing people rather than understanding what they are and adapting in environment to who they really are. So instead of viewing neurodivergence as a set of deficits and disorders and disability, we should see it as a range of human experiences and a way of processing the world. However, it's very important to say here that many people actually with neurodivergent conditions do identify as disabled people. So we have to actually allow that sort of spectrum of identification and the support they need. So we can't really move away from disability, because sometimes people need a level of support that we have to actually understand as a kind of disability. But having said that, that kind of support doesn't really move away understanding and adapting environment to them.
That was great. And I want to just take this as a follow-on. Now, narrowing it down to autism, which is what we're trying to create awareness about, celebrating Autism Awareness Month, the month of April. More specifically, I would like to expand on shifting this perspective when it comes to neurodiversity with the peculiarity in autism. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So viewing autism through the lens of human divergence is incredibly important. And I think it's really, really helpful for people on the autistic spectrum. There is still a lot of work to be done, but we have to understand autism broadly as a difference in processing, communication, and interaction. So instead of actually viewing through some sort of negative stigma and being afraid of it and just through the lens of sort of societal expectations. And instead of forcing the change in people with autism, we should actually focus on creating environments where autistic individuals can thrive as they are. So this understanding helps reduce stigma and encourages all the support network to build more inclusive practices that accommodate those diverse needs. So I think actually since neurodiversity as a word and as a concept was introduced, I think it was really welcomed by autistic people. But again, as I said with your previous question, we have to be very careful in how much we should just accept and how much support we should offer.
Yeah, thank you. But I like the fact that you mentioned something around, rather than trying to change, but we try to kind of shift the accommodation. I'll still come to the question of accommodation, but I would like to take you on this. I've had the opportunity of speaking with a woman who had an autistic child first, second. I think I still spoke with her yesterday, and she was saying something around, well, experience sometimes can make you to become an advocate, but some people are experiencing it firsthand. Now, you are a specialist in this field, and I'd like to take this opportunity to also chip out some brief information to families who are experiencing this for the very first time.
Right.
Just got diagnosed of autism. What immediate steps should they take?
Right. Okay, so the first thing I think families should do is actually to breathe and take one step at a time. So I've seen lots of different responses to understandings, to learning the diagnosis of autism. So for some people it's shocking, for some people it's scary, for some people it's what they expected and what they wanted because they already learned about it. So I think people really need to take a breath and understand that there is so much that can be done about it. And I think it's also learning about it. It's also the opportunity to understand the child, because there is so much before learning about diagnosis that people are confused about. Why is the child behaving in this way? Why is the child not doing things they're supposed to be doing for their age? So I think learning the diagnosis is actually the first opportunity to understand why the things are as they are. And then I always really encourage parents initially to focus on connection rather than correction initially. So early intervention is incredibly important. But I think I would really initially encourage parents to educate themselves and to actually listen to all sorts of perspectives, to understand, to listen to experts, but also to listen to autistic voices, because they can learn a lot from autistic voices. And then to really find the right balance, how to actually help the child, but how to actually feel good about all that. But I think just a lot of education, a lot of support network, and support network is not just within experts who will actually support the child. They need support network within the family, with friends, in their local communities. So it depends where they are. In some local communities, there is a good level of understanding of autism and people will be supported already. However, I mean, I worked a lot internationally. I've seen communities where nobody knows anything about it. So it's very challenging for parents to actually educate the local community and how to actually explain that, how to actually break that stigma. So I think they do need a lot of support in everything.
And I'm happy too that I think there are a lot of support systems that are coming up now, even back home, and there are a lot of people trying to also support this community. And I hope that this kind of awareness will also further make people come to this realization. Thank you again. Now, looking at the other part, you will agree with me that a lot of people feel, is it possible that autism could improve? Can we have some behavioral changes over time? What are your thoughts on this?
Right. This is actually a big question, and it's very debatable as well. So, I mean, one fact is autism itself doesn't go away. But the way it manifests, that can change a lot. When I say the way it manifests itself and the way that people experiences the world, and we first have to think about what is it we want to change. So I think the individual approach is very, very important. So we need to look at, what is causing discomfort, what is preventing the progress. What is actually preventing the person to actually live a comfortable, good quality life. So there is a lot that individuals can do. As they grow, they can develop skills, they can learn strategies, they may find ways to navigate the world more comfortably. But the final achievement really is that a person can live a good quality life. And to achieve that, we really need to look at that individual approach. So rather than thinking of it as improvement, I see it as adaptation. So it's all about supportive environments, positive relationships, personalized strategies, and all that together can actually help build confidence and resilience in people who experience the world differently.
Dana, now let's go to the stress awareness part. Now, is there a connection? I would like us to look at stress in the field of also the neurodivergence. Is there a connection between neurodiversity and how we experience stress?
Absolutely, that's my answer. So neurodivergent individuals often experience stress differently, and partly because their brains process information uniquely. However, there's so many other reasons. One could be sensory overload. It could be social expectations. For many people, that's the major sort of stress trigger. The pressure to mask autistic traits can lead to heightened stress levels. So a lot of autistic people, actually, the major stress is coming from so much effort being made in or put into masking. So covering up those autistic traits. So it's crucial to acknowledge that these differences, so these differences can actually add to a stress management approaches. And it's really important to understand what is triggering stress, how a person is processing the world, how to manage that, and to have a really serious approach strategies into stress management. So I think it's a big subject, and that's why for example, many people not being diagnosed on time and being neurodivergent actually experience mental health issues later in life or as young adults, just because that stress management is not managed well. And they try to navigate that and cope by themselves somehow.
I like that you said something around some of the downstream effect that could result from the stress, if not properly managed. But I will also want to look at the general term burnout. A lot of people talk about burnout, even in the popular world before we come to the neurodivergent. Is there anything like autistic burnout, and how do people understand how to practically strategize themselves or manage it in such a way that individuals with autism will be able to manage stress and prevent burnouts, given that they are already on the heightened state, if I may say that?
Yeah, I think that's certainly an appropriate word, but there are many other words that we can use. But autistic burnout has to be taken very, very seriously. So it's really, it's very intense, and it often occurs after prolonged masking or pushing oneself to meet neurotypical standards. That's not the only cause of autistic burnout, but it's not just fatigue, it's not just tiredness, and it's very difficult to understand from a neurotypical perspective. It's a complete overwhelm that affects daily functioning. So I've seen different versions of burnout. It can be a meltdown. It can be complete shutdown. I've seen children or young people who actually look really unwell. They look like they are actually having an illness or extreme case of flu, something like that. And I've seen parents who actually say, oh, we need to check, we need to do a blood test because they seem to be so unwell. But it's all really about burnout because it can affect the whole body. So it's incredibly important to understand what is causing burnout. And again, that's related to a previous question about stress management. So I think the support network needs to look at what are the stress triggers. What is the environment that is causing that prolonged stress? What are the expectations and what is the management approach? But that's a very serious thing that needs to be taken very, very seriously.
I'm happy you touched on that. For parents and caregivers who are supporting autistic children, what do you think? Okay, let me ask, and I'm sure you will agree with me that there are families who struggle with balancing support and also independence for their autistic loved ones. So what advice will you give in this regard for people who are trying to strike a balance in this?
Yeah, I mean that's a really good question because it's often debated. Obviously, the aim for every person is to actually achieve that independence as much as possible. I mean, very often support and independence really go well together, but it's a fine balance. We need to look at what the person can comfortably do, what the person is really good at, and exactly how much support is needed. So we just need to offer as much support as is needed to actually that independence to work comfortably with a confidence and with that sort of good quality of life. So, for example, if the person can do something to some extent and then we don't offer enough support, just doing that enough can actually be that stress trigger. Okay, but then if we offer just as little support as is necessary to complete a task or to actually live that sort of in that sort of environment, that can prevent stress and it can really empower the person to live independently. So I think it's really, again, it's very personalized approach. We need to look at how much of independence is possible and how much of support is necessary and needed for that independence to be achieved.
Thank you so much, Dana. That was, I know I'm trying to drill a lot from you and we're trying to wrap up now. But before we wrap up, I would like you to please give us more strategies or more steps or stepwise or in whatever form you feel you can put it across. If there is any framework that you can suggest to help move from just this awareness. You know, right now we're trying to create awareness about the neurodivergence, autism, as it were. How do we create a framework that will move us from this awareness campaign through to implementation, where we'll be able to positively push acceptance and also accommodation, just as you have mentioned, and you emphasized on it during your response, and I appreciate that, such that we we'll be able to have more people who will embrace this neurodiversity. And while you're wrapping up, you can also close that with your final thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, what is really important is we need to move away from awareness to true inclusion. So when I say true inclusion, this means really listening to autistic voices. And I think that needs more work. So we need to listen to autistic people in policy making. We need to involve people in program design. We need to push for community-driven solutions. So I think we need to hear that perspective. And the reason why that is important, first, it promotes better understanding. But then when you say framework, there's so many different approaches that are based on behavior approach and based on more naturalistic approach. And that it's very debatable what is actually working, what is not. However, I think there is always a good balance between how much we are supporting the person and how much we are working on skills and how much we are actually changing the environment. So there's so many examples. So for example, in the past, like 15 years ago, I've seen environment where if the child is actually having a behavior which is different to behavior of his peers, we would change that behavior. However, now we learn that that behavior is self-regulating behavior. And all we need to do is to educate the environment to accept that behavior because it's not really disturbing anyone. It's all about acceptance. So I think we always need to look at, what we are working with, how much we are working with the environment and how much we are working with the person and working on skills and other adaptations.
Thank you so much, Dana. Thank you for this very insightful discussion with you. And I don't know if you will like to put out anything that anyone might want to reach out to you to get more details about this, since you are a consultant in this field.
Thank you. I mean, it is a pleasure talking to you, really. I mean, my LinkedIn is available, so that's the best way to approach me if anybody wants to approach me. But yes, I mean, very important conversation that needs a lot more content. So thank you so much for initiating that. I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Dana. And as clearly stated by Dana, individuals with autism can absolutely experience improvement in their abilities and in their behaviors by just having the right support and interventions. And many people on the spectrum has been able to lead successful, fulfilling lives And so thank you to you again, Dana, for this eye-opening conversation. And I'm sure we will be able to take it beyond this place. Thank you to everyone who will be listening to this podcast on this special April episode. And just remember that understanding neurodiversity isn't just about supporting others. It's also about creating a world that accommodates or embrace the full spectrum of human experience, including our own unique neurological profile. And again, my name is Nosarieme Abey, and we will be back next month with more insights and creating a fascinating world for neuroscience. And please remember to like, share, so that this information can get to as much people who may need it as possible. See you again next time, and bye for now.